Welcome to Meet the Gamechangers. I'm Rev Kev, and this is the space where we celebrate extraordinary individuals shaping our world for the better. These are the voices and stories that inspire us to dream bigger and act bolder. So let's get started with today's incredible game changing guests. Let's go.
This is Meet the Gamechangers with Rev Kev, where we dive into the stories of people transforming our world one bold move at a time.
That kid just in the streets because they want to be in the streets. That girl hoeing around because she want to hoe. That little baby cussing at school because he want to cuss. Your son that got locked up in jail because he wanted to get locked up. Your kids smoking weed because they want to smoke. They drinking because they want to drink. They done seen that stuff somewhere. They done seen it, and they done seen it 9 times out of 10 in you or to somebody that was attached to you.
It's Promise Israel, known widely as the Millennial Influencer, is helping bridge those generational divides with a grounded spiritual presence and a powerful online platform. Promise speaks to the heart of what so many are feeling, but can't always say. Welcome. I'm so glad you are in the place.
Yes, thank you for having me. And the opening was amazing. I feel really good. Hey, we off to a great start.
Let's get it. PI's in the building.
Right. Right. PI. I like that.
Do you like that? All
Mhm.
right. I'm Rev Kev, and this is PI on Meet the Gamechangers. And let me just tell you right off the top, I'm so grateful for the work that you're about and your individual calling. What sparked your journey of turning your personal pain into a platform for healing?
Well, I think everyone should use their voice for something good. And everyone has trials and tribulations. It says that in the word. It's not gonna everyone is gonna go through something. Now, how you respond, I think, is what matters to God. So, I was lost in the wilderness and angry. And I did that for so long, so I'm like, let me try something different. And so then I really started just amping up and really having that desire to want to get to know God more, and really want to be in a more committed relationship with Him, right? I was
Mhm.
in a relationship with Him, but it wasn't a committed relationship to where I'm really trying to honor His word and, follow His commandments and stuff like that. So, yeah, I just decided I wanted to sow good seeds into the world. And
Uh,
you have to use your pain or just your outlook on life to do that. And that's how it kind of happened. There's a
well,
lot of people putting out really, really bad fruit into the world. And I don't
yeah.
think they know on their judgment day, they're going to be judged by what they put out.
Mm.
Your words, your videos, your actions, your responses. God is going to judge all of that.
What was it like for you growing up without your father, and how did that shape you?
Yes. Okay, growing up without my dad, it was really confusing because naturally you're supposed to have a mother and a father, especially if both of those two people are still alive. So I spent a lot of my childhood, really just feeling confused about who I was and who I am because you have so many things you get from your mom and then you have so many things you get from your dad. So with being raised by a single parent, right? And only being able to see my mom's side of the family, it was a lot inside of me that just didn't fit into what I saw. So I
Mm.
always felt kind of just different. And
Mhm.
I really didn't know why. But of course you grow up and you realize, well, you don't have a dad. And
Mhm.
a lot of times my siblings would taunt me about that. They'll say, "You don't know your dad. Yeah,
Mm.
that's why you don't know your dad." Now they was saying it, I guess, as a joke, and I laughed as a kid because that's just a response. That's a trauma response to kind of laugh about it, laugh it off. But for real, I really didn't know my dad. I didn't have access to him like they had access to their dads.
Mhm.
So to a certain extent, it did hurt me
Mhm.
to know that I didn't have a dad, and I was a really good kid.
Mhm.
I wasn't a problem child in school, and I
Mhm.
always pretty much represented my family the best way I knew how based off of just my circumstances. So I was like, dog, why all the bad kids got dads? So as
Mhm.
a kid, you start thinking, how am I not good enough to have a dad?
Wow.
right?
Wow.
And
Wow.
that's how I felt as a kid, but I
Wow.
eventually just kinda I knew I wanted a dad. I had people that stood in the gap, like, just kinda like mentors, coaches who majority of the like, basketball team, volleyball team, majority of us didn't have a dad. So we had a male coach, he was like our father figure, but he still wasn't my dad. And I also had a god dad who stepped in and, he was good to me, but he still wasn't my dad. You want your dad. You wanna know where you come from. And so I spent a lot of time just longing for that. Now he and I, we have a, relationship now though.
That's what I picked up. As a father, who is rearing teenage daughters and who has a young son, preteen son, I felt that.
Mhm.
And, and it made me want to be a more present father, a more accessible father. Um, just to know that, because sometimes, moms are the GOAT. They are the GOAT. The bond between a mother and their children is just one that is something that is sort of irreplaceable. And so sometimes that as a dad, you can feel in second place or maybe 10th place. It's like you're not the mom. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? So you carved out something very special in the things that you've been saying about how important it was for you to have that uh, place in your heart filled where your dad belongs. And I was so happy to learn that you were reunited. What was that like for you?
It was, it was a lot. It was a lot. I was very emotional, and it happened around the age of 13, where I really just asked my mom, like, I just asked her about my dad. I've never heard her say anything bad about him. I heard things that my family would say regarding their situation, but my mom never said anything about it. She never said anything bad about him. And my mom is a really nice person. I cannot say that she's like one of those mothers that kind of make her kids feel some type of way about their dad. That's just not who she is. So she really just never said anything about him. And around the age of 13, I asked her about him, and we was able to kind of, like get online and find my sister from my dad's side, and then she was able to connect me with him. And I was like full of emotions. I remember the first time I heard his voice, I was walking out of Midfield High School, 13, 14 years old, just getting done playing a basketball game. And I was just overwhelmed with emotions, really didn't know how to feel about it. And but it was a good feeling, but it was also, you know, I felt a little embarrassed because I really don't even know what to do. We on the phone, but I
Mm,
don't really know what to say. I don't
mm,
really know how to feel. All I know
mm.
is I'm crying and I don't know how to express why I'm crying.
You said that your mom did not like badmouth
Mm-mm.
um, your father, and say things that were negative. How important is that? That does not happen. What might that have done? In terms of your relationship, had that been the case.
I'll say this to all parents. Um, Children are impressionable. They're just like a sponge. So whatever you put on that sponge, they're gonna soak it up, whether that's good or bad. Because children are not mature enough to know how to filter out good or bad. Right? So I think if my mom would have like talked about my dad or, like said weird things, I think it would have influenced me in a way where I wouldn't have been open-minded to the idea of even having a relationship with him. So I saw my mom just not say anything, and then I was
Mm.
able to see like peers and even family members plant bad things onto their children who also did not have a present father, right? I heard people say certain stuff to their young kids, and my mama never did that to me. And people who do that to their children, you really you wrong. You dead wrong for it. Whatever beef you and your baby mama, baby daddy, whatever beef y'all have, you really don't need to say nothing to those kids about it because the kid is a totally separate entity. right? And you don't know how that kid is going to transform, the dad's life or the mom's life once they are reunited. But if I came into the situation already feeling some type of way about him, we wouldn't be right now. We wouldn't have a strong relationship right now, you know. So I think it's important for adults to, especially if, the other parent wasn't immoral, especially if nothing like that is going on, just kind of stay out of it. Don't
Mhm,
have anything good or bad to say. Allow that child to grow up and develop their own idea of who, that person is
mhm.
or who that person was,
Yeah,
you
because
know.
clearly one of the things you help us to see just in your own story is that that part of that was an important part of you. Reuniting with your father was an important part of you. Even though you didn't have all this history with him, there was a part of you that was essential to reconnect to. And so I appreciate you saying that. You really a lot of your content does help to fill in some of the missing pieces or the blind sides that parents have and kids have. And so I
Mm.
really appreciate that. So, what do you say to those parents who may be having an estranged relationship or a hard time connecting with, and I'm just going to put me in the mix as a father trying to reach my teenage daughters?
So you feel estranged from your teenage daughters?
I have some challenges right now that makes us in terms of in my relationship with their mother, we have our own, set of challenges that are going on, and that creates a little bit of distance because what I'm finding is that at times they tend to align more with what mom has to say. And so I think it's very helpful to me to hear, how can I be better and more connected um, as a father, as a parent with my teenagers?
Yes, sometimes loving people from a distance is the best thing you can do.
Mm,
A lot of parents don't encourage their children to be independent thinkers. So they probably, think like their mom because they're depending on her thoughts. My mom always like taught me to be an independent thinker. So what I felt, those are my feelings. She didn't project, she gave her opinion. And I love my mom, right? Of course, she didn't do it all right, but she taught me how to think in an independent way. A lot of parents don't do that. They raise up their children, and their children depend on the brain of the parent, even when they become adults. A lot of adult kids, they don't know how to think on their own. So I say, if the mom is like in the midst of the relationship that you could have with your daughters, make sure you're praying about it. Continue to intercede about the relationship, and I'm sure you are. But sometimes you just got to kind of step back because the more you touch it, the more they're going to see you as the villain, right?
mm,
Just step back, allow them to, women, young girls who grow up to become women, at some point they go wake up and they gonna say, I need my dad. Especially when you
mm,
start dating. If you start dealing with certain situations where you don't understand how important it is to have someone covering you. Your dad is supposed to cover you until you get a husband, right? Then
mhm,
your husband covers you. And God covers us all. Of course I don't
mhm,
want to leave that out, but you're gonna wake up one day and it's gonna click. So when I wanted to know about my dad at 13, I had kind of always wanted to know about him. Then we got to know each other, and then it was still a lot of distance, physical distance, because my dad was deported before I was born. So I'm half Jamaican. So that situation alone, it made it so difficult for us to embrace each other. So we had to use what we had, which is like video chat to just kind of get to know each other. And we're still having to use that until God creates something that makes sense for us to actually still embrace each other. So I started talking to him at 13. And then we would talk, but I'm a child. And then I grew up, became an adult. And then we'll talk, but it didn't click until about like 23, 24. I'm like, man, I need a role model. I need a dad. And that's
Mhm.
when I said, I gotta figure out how to make this thing work for the sake of me becoming a wife, for the sake of
Mhm.
me being able to heal from, um, just some traumas I had dealt with, such as sexual assault, being in homosexuality and stuff like that. Not having my dad played a part in all of that,
Mhm.
but I can't blame him for things that happened to me. I just know it played a part in it because if I would have had, I hate to say that. I hate to say that because everything happens for a reason.
Mhm. But I understand where you're coming from. I think
Yeah.
what I'm hearing you say is that there was a part that his presence could play, and there was a part in your heart that you knew would have you feel more complete and more uh, um, uh, confident about how you navigated your life with his presence. So I hear that. You said something though just a second ago that I think I'd like you to say more about, and that is your own healing journey from traumas that you had. There are young people who are experiencing traumas, and they do things to and sometimes they don't tell us as parents.
Mhm.
Sometimes they're they're acting out in school, they're smoking, they're drinking, they're doing things that um communicate that they're not exactly who they once were and who we've known them to be, but not necessarily telling, us what happened. Tell us maybe some of the ways that parents can, identify how to know if a child has experienced some kind of trauma, and then tell us what you've done to um, heal from the experiences that you've had.
Parents are at a disadvantage when it comes to recognizing certain things in their children because 90% of parents wake up and go to work, right? So when you go to work, you're working 8 to 10 hours or 10 to 12 hours a day. Your child is, with someone else, right? So parents really can't see when certain stuff happens to their children or with their children
Mhm.
because for some reason children, they just don't come out and say what happened. They don't know how to talk about it. So y- you're still a human. You're a parent, right? But you're a human at the end of the day. So you can't just see trauma. You can't really see the physical aftermath of trauma. You're not a superhuman. So parents just always encourage your kids to like be transparent with you about
Mhm.
just everything. But what does that look like? A lot of times you hear parents say, well, you could tell me anything or everything. Then they try that, and then the kid is reprimanded for telling you.
But what I'm hearing you say, Promise, is that we got to find a balance. We've got to find a balance. Tell us some of the things that you did that brought you on your healing journey.
Some of the things that I did, like the steps that I took to
Yeah.
become a more
Hmm.
healthier person,
Yes. Yeah. To heal.
you have to have a relationship with Jesus Christ. Okay. It will not work if you don't submit to Jesus. Okay. So I don't care how many self-help books you read. I don't care how much advice you get from a mentor or a person that look up to. And a lot of people are idolizing people that they shouldn't, but that's a different story. You have to have that vertical relationship with God.
Hmm.
And that's how it started for me. And that is not, it's easy to say it, but like I know having a relationship with God is really difficult. It's really
Why?
difficult
Why is it?
having
Why is it difficult?
uh any relationship, all relationships are difficult. Maintaining a relationship is just difficult in general. But having a relationship with God, it's difficult because the flesh wants what it wants. And
I
that's
see.
not always a lustful thing. That could be you have to die to your flesh about being angry, about having a bad attitude, about being unforgiving. The flesh wants to be upset. The flesh wants everything opposite of what God wants. And that's the battle, right?
Hmm.
So it's difficult knowing how to die to your flesh when you lived in it for so long.
Hmm.
You know,
So
you've catered to your flesh for so long, and now you're having to tell yourself no.
Yeah.
That's tough. It sound good.
So having a relationship with God, did this happen for you that you happened upon a particular church, or there was a particular moment in your life where something turned on for you that you
Ye
said, what was it?
Yes, I was so unhappy a couple of years ago. I've always, just to be totally transparent, I've always dealt with some level of depression.
Hmm.
Um, but in my adult life, a few years ago, I was so down. I was so depressed. I was taking antidepressants. It wasn't enough money that I could make to make me happy. I was making good money. I thought I was at a job that I really loved. I was in a relationship, you know, with a woman, and I thought that was cool at that time. You know what I mean? So I thought I had everything I needed, but every night I laid my head on the pillow, man, it was a struggle. It was a struggle to get out of bed. So I'm like, some I'm a unhappy person, you know.
Hmm.
And a few years ago, I was having suicidal thoughts, if you want me to be totally honest with you. I was sitting in front of right where I'm sitting, I have my vanity mirror right here. And I was like, man, I hate myself. I hate my life. Sometimes you just got to get real with yourself. And the man in the mirror is really the person that needs the fixing. And so I was like, well, before I make this permanent decision, let me try. Let me try God. Let me just try it out, you know. And I was committed to trying it with everything, with all of the energy that I had lived so immorally with. I was willing to use that energy to figure out if Jesus was really real. And that's just me being honest. I was brought up in the church and everything like that. My mom always had us in church, but you got to know Jesus for yourself. And the only way you can learn Jesus for yourself is when you are at a point where the only person who can save you is him. And that's where I was. My mental health was at like an all-time low. That's just the truth, you know.
But you know what? Let me just say, first of all, I'm so glad that you did reach out. And I'm so glad that you made your contact and found that place, because what you're now doing as a result of that, first of all, your openness, your vulnerability, your you're showing us, you're showing us with your very life how you have come to this place where you feel like your feet are on the ground, you have something to offer, and you're giving your light. It's so powerful, promise. And I
Thank you.
just want you to know that. I really don't underestimate what you're the light that you are carrying right now because you made that decision. But you've also talked about, mental health, and in the Black community, and actually across the country, in many communities, there's a stigma attached to uh, getting mental health treatment. A lot of Black folks would rather go to church, and then and in some other communities, the white folks would rather avoid being labeled, not sane and not mentally healthy. Um, Tell us how important it was for you to get help with a mental health practitioner, someone who is professional in this area.
It was very important to me because the community that I come from is a very poor, poverty-stricken community. That's a mentality, you know what I mean? So, when you are sick mentally, and I don't wanna project this onto everyone, but if you if you grew up in an environment where sickness has plagued the environment, that could be due to drugs, that could be due to alcoholism, prostitution, or it could just be due to people just not having enough, like pouring from an empty cup, not having enough financially. All of that stuff takes a toll on your mental. And then let's add in being raised by a single parent. That's mental.
Mhm.
Let's add in sexual because everything is inappropriate around you. Okay? So
Let's
it's mhm.
let's come together. I want to pause. So what I'm hearing you say is that there are the social, particularly the social determinants of health that are involved in communities that are marginalized, that are under resourced, that have a lot of real challenges uh, due to that, starts to frame up what you can and cannot and do not know to reach for. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Yes, it restricts your vision. It restricts you
Mm,
if you only see life one way. And
yeah.
you know, like for me, and I'm sure for you and people who are watching, you know, it's something else inside of you that's untouched, you don't, or untapped. You don't know how to tap into it. And nothing around you makes sense to what you
Hmm.
feel on the inside.
Hmm.
Okay, so you've only seen life one way. Of course, like mentally, you're going to feel tormented because you should be in a different place or you should be exposed to something different. Now, as a child, you really can't do much about it. Your circumstances are your circumstances as a child. But a lot of people grow up and they become adults and they are so angry about their childhood that they don't even realize, hey, the world is your oyster right now. Go out and see what you like, try some stuff. Try tap into that gut feeling so you can really experience like all God has to offer for you to you.
So how did it happen for you that you came to know that I can get therapy, I can connect with a mental health practitioner? What happened?
My mom is a very supportive person. She's a good person. So even though, you know, like our circumstances or our environment was one way, my mom always tried her best to position me and my siblings to see something different, even if it was only like a summer camp. You know what I mean? She always took us out of that environment so that we can see something different. But the thing is, we always had to go back. That was our reality. You know what I'm saying? But she tried her best to expose us to something different. So you gotta choose. You gotta choose how you're gonna think about this thing, right? If your reality is one way and you're able to see something different, you know, and I'm talking personally and then I'm generalizing it because a lot of people are not, they never come out of their environment. But my mom, she really, you know, she tried her best to expose us to something different. And it was our choice to kind of go with that. You know what I mean?
Promise, you are touching so many lives today. We've got some comments in the chat room that I just want to acknowledge. I want to, first of all, if you're just joining us, welcome to Meet the Game Changers. I'm Rev Kev, and we are talking with a millennial influencer and someone who has a deep, deep passion for helping bridge the divide between the generations, and that's Promise Israel. And she has been really touching our souls. We want you to like, subscribe, and share this incredible episode and all of our Meet the Game Changer episodes. But let's get some little feedback from the chat room. We got something from Big Nasty who says, "Wow, she's incredibly beautiful, insightful, well spoken." And then Kim Treadwell says, that self-awareness is so important and powerful. Kudos to you. You knew what was missing and decided to take matters into your own hands. She also says, yes, people need to know that the struggle is real. And when it's within yourself, the only way I found out was through Jesus. Derek says, another great show. The topics continue to hit home. ENM says, great conversation. All right. And then Marie says, I'm loving the topics you are all bringing up. It's insightful and instructive. Thank you so much. Promise you lighten up the leaderboard around here. Please like, share, subscribe. Let people know we've got Promise Israel. I call it PI on
Right.
Meet the Game Changers today. And she's getting us to understand how we can heal within our families, however those families might show up. Sometimes they're not the perfect family, but there are ways that we can do things to bring that healing about. And she shared with us about and is sharing about her own personal journey. So Promise, you're going to tell us what happened that brought you into the therapist's office.
Um like okay, as a kid or
How
as an adult?
how did you, because remember you were saying earlier that the environment itself was kind of not encouraging of this, and perhaps you didn't even know that resource was available. So I'm getting the impression that you somehow made a choice, or someone gave you an awareness that mental health care was okay.
So when I was, and I haven't even shared this story publicly, but I want to say to like parents and just to anyone who is overseeing a child, the enemy is really after the brain of children because it's very impressionable. So around like 17 years old, I was at a really low point. And I had just tore my ACL, MCL, lateral meniscus. So my scholarship offers were off the table. And I had worked my whole life to get out of like where I was. Like I gotta go to school.
Were you an
So
were
yeah,
you an athlete or a dancer? Which one?
I was an athlete. I was a pretty good athlete. And I hurt myself right the month before signing day. I tore my ACL, MCL, lateral meniscus. So sports was like the thing that I did. That was my outlet. So even though I felt like my environment was crazy, even though I felt like I was lacking in some areas, I was always able to go and perform. And I was just good. I was really good at everything I did. And so and I worked hard. When I tore my leg up and I had to have surgery, the thing that maybe I was idolizing it. When you think about it, children are idolizing sports. They're idolizing those outlets. And I think that was my first time experiencing just being hopeless because I couldn't walk. I was in a wheelchair. I was in pain. The schools that wanted me didn't want me anymore because the injury was, it was a big injury, and I never forget I told my mama, I was like, "Mama, I need some help. I wanna," I used to just suicidal thoughts will plague your brain, especially when you don't know what else you can do. I said, "You need to take me to the hospital because I'm feeling real low, real down." My mama never talked against therapy. She took me to the hospital and got me some help. You know what I mean? Um, so I can't say that she believes in therapy because that's her story, but she never restricted me from going to get help. And I've always gone to get help. I've always believed in therapy, believed in professional help. And everyone should believe in it. I understand y'all want to go to church and y'all want to do all of that. Do that. But God and Jesus is equipping human beings to help you. He cannot. That's just like I know you heard about the story. The guy in the middle of the ocean. He talking about God is going to save me. One boat come by. No, I don't want you. God is going to save me. Another boat come by. No, God is going to save me. Another boat come by. Eventually, this man dies. Why? God has sent you help. People need to understand that Jesus has to use humans to help other humans. Okay, so uh, you therapy is real and it's a gift from God. It's not to make you feel the enemy has plagued our brains to make us feel like mental health or going to see a therapist or taking antidepressants. Oh, you're crazy. No, you're crazy if you don't go and get help. If you
Wow.
don't take medicine, that's what makes you crazy.
I really appreciate that, and I know that that's reaching a lot of folks right now. Um, you were saying some things earlier that brought up something. There is a culture right now that's
Hmm.
very different from the one I grew up in. We There's a play date culture and a sleepover culture that's pretty prevalent in a lot of communities. Talk to us about the importance of parents being cautious around sleepovers and play dates. You were kind of indicating something about being in and around appropriate relationship with adults.
Yes, parents need to make sure they have discernment in these situations. And a lot of times parents don't have discernment because they are far away from God trying to
Mm.
parent a child. You have to have a relationship with God as a parent in order to parent a child because if you don't, you're not going to be able to discern certain situations that the enemy is positioning your child to be in. I highly don't recommend sleepovers unless you've vetted the family. How do you vet the family? Go over for dinner. See how they are living. A lot of times, people just yeah, you could go and the mom ain't never even been in these folks' house. The dad ain't never even been in these folks' house. You haven't spent enough time around the adults to know what type of environment this is. And how will you know? You judge them by their fruits. What are their fruits? Their words, their actions. Also, you need to vet those kids. My mom didn't she didn't necessarily believe in like sleepovers and stuff and but I can't say
Mm.
we didn't go over to family members' house or family members coming over to our house, but I think you should be really cautious. The first
Mhm.
time I really slept over that I could remember, I slept over at a friend's house. I was sexually assaulted by the friend. And so
Mm.
parents, y'all don't even know it's not always the adults. You can't always think adults are assaulting children. Children are
Mm.
also assaulting children. You know what I mean?
Wow.
And that was such an eye opener when that happened to me because I had never been in a situation like that. And guess what? I didn't know how to tell my mama about that. I didn't know how to tell my mama that my peer had just like what she did to me because I was embarrassed. I felt stupid. Like how you let somebody your age do this to you. But these are not no one said this to me. These are just the thoughts that I had in my head, which is why I never said nothing.
Wow.
So go and vet the families.
Promise.
Y'all gotta vet the families.
Thank, thanks so much. Mike Moore says, "Know thy company." My mom vetted my friends. Uh, E&M says, "Preach." So you're reaching folks today. Promise. PI is touching lives today. Okay, we've got just a few minutes left in this incredible episode of Meet the Game Changers. So grateful. Um, what do you do on days when you hit a wall, when healing feels far away, or you feel discouraged? What do you do to bounce back?
Um, Sometimes the best thing you can do is just work through that emotion,
Mhm.
right? So if you're feeling sad, angry, get to yourself and just kind of naturally work through that emotion. I've always been really good at not diving into anything that could make me feel different than how I feel at the time. Why? Because you won't really understand why you feel that way if you're suppressing it with external factors, whatever that may be. Because it's not always drugs and alcohol. It's a lot of stuff that people are using to just kind of suppress how they naturally feel. So on days when you're not feeling your best, make it known to the people who you love the most. Hey, this is not the best day for me. And you just letting them know that because they need to handle you with care on a day that's not your best. Then you kind of, get with yourself. And of course, everyone is going to say, talk to God, and you should, but you should be doing that daily anyway. So meditating on the word daily and doing that stuff daily, it still doesn't, it's not going to wipe away your actual fleshly feelings. Especially as a woman, sometimes you wake up sad and it's not because of anything other than just women have different things going on, so they feel different, they react different. I can't speak for men, but I'm sure waking up and just the struggles and the pressures of just being a man and having everything on you, some days you really just need to sit in that emotion, right? Sit in it and it's gonna pass. But, and how can that happen? A lot of people they don't have the privilege of being able to call off work or being able to just stay in bed one day and really rest. And I can't really speak to those people because everybody's circumstances are different. But sometimes you just got to position yourself to choose you. How do you do that? Like, just call off. Be okay with missing the money that day. And I know that might sound crazy. I'm just trying to generally make this make sense because my life is different. Now, if I'm not having a good day, okay, I'm staying at home. I have some stuff in place to where I can afford to not have good days, but that's not everyone's situation and circumstance. So I don't want to exclude people who don't have that privilege, but I do want to say if you don't take a moment and really sit in your emotion, angry, sad, happy, whatever your emotion is, it's going to keep coming to you. The only way you could work through and get past emotions is understanding them, understanding why did you wake up like this? What has changed? Like, You gotta be able to spend time with yourself, to really, get out of those funky moments.
Mhm. Thank you so much. I am so pleased to hear about your self-care, you know,
Yeah.
because self-care does matter. And I love that you say, hey, just call out, take some time, ride out the emotion, and take care of yourself. We've been taught so much not to take care of self. So this is so good. Last question before we wrap up this incredible
This
conversation.
was so good. It's
It's
already time to get off?
it's just about, yeah, we might have to have a part two, PI.
Yeah.
You speak with a lot of compassion, you speak with a lot of boldness at the same time. What's something you wish more people would say out loud in their families, but often don't say?
No, no. That's the solution to a lot of problems. People don't know how to say that word. No, no, no. However, you could put whatever word you wanna put in front of it too, but make sure no is there, you know? No, say no, just say no. Jesus, just say no. And I wanna make it a little more extravagant with my answer. I want my answer to be a little more extravagant, but no is the reason why a lot of this stuff is happening. Not being able to say that word,
Mhm.
not being able to set that boundary. And that boundary doesn't keep, it's not about keeping a person away. It's just about protecting what's going on with you and your family. No, say no to your family members. Also understand that your family is your mom, your dad, your siblings, not like your cousin. That's your family. But a lot of times, and I'm having to learn this at my big age. I had cousins and stuff, and I love them. We grew up like brothers and sisters. Aunties and uncles grew up like they was like my second mama or whatever. Those people are not my family, not my internal family. So say no to family members because a lot of times, a lot of this stuff is starting within your family. Your cousins, they might be living and exposed to something totally different than you and your siblings. But since y'all seeing it, and a lot of times the parents, they're seeing it as, oh, they family, we family. Yeah, y'all could come over, you can go over there. The enemy attacks the family first, and then he pushes you out into the world, and now everybody else is able to contaminate you. So just like learn how to say no. Learn how to say no about your money. Learn how to say no about your resources. Learn how to say no about your car. Learn how to say no about your children. Learn how to say no
Mhm.
today. Start practicing it. And
Woo!
learn how to say no to yourself.
Yes. Because
Mhm,
no is a complete sentence. No
mhm.
is a complete sentence. The comments are jumping up.
Yeah.
E&M says, yes, we've got to have a part two. Brittany Graves, good to see you. She says, yes, this is such an important conversation. Cries for help come in many different forms, and working to recognize can make a huge difference in the lives of those that may be afraid to ask. I mean, wow. Promise you touching lives today on Meet the Game Changers. So grateful, so grateful. Thank you for showing up with such raw truth and grace and just being a light on our program today and for sharing your journey in such an open and vulnerable way. I know this is going to be a blessing and one of the best things that someone could run across today. Please like and share you all and get this word out. Everybody's got to know about Promise. Um, thank you so much. How can people follow you, Promise?
On any major platform, you could just search Promise Israel or the Millennial Influencer. Well, not the, just Millennial Influencer, and that's on TikTok, IG, and Promise Israel on YouTube, Facebook. Those are and Lemon 8, that's kinda like connected to TikTok. I don't know if people are using that yet, but it's Millennial Influencer on there as well. So either Millennial Influencer or Promise Israel, you should get something. Um, yeah, simple.
Thank you so much. Everybody, check Promise Israel out. I'm sure there's something there that's going to be a blessing to you. Thanks for being on the program.
Hey, thanks for having me and continue to shed light using your platform because my voice would not have been heard if it wasn't for you. So thank you for, having the courage to have a platform like this and also having the courage to give someone else the microphone. A lot of times everyone just wants to keep the mic for themselves, but we're supposed to allow other people to have a voice in this world. So thank you for that.
My joy. It's my joy. We'll be following you. We'll be keeping up with you. So please remember that sometimes healing starts with one brave conversation. Sometimes it starts with one honest voice, like Promise's voice, that reminds us that it's okay to feel, to forgive, and to find our way back to each other. Thank you for watching Meet the Game Changers. Until next time, go out there and change the game. See you next time.
This is Meet the Game Changers with Rev Kev, where we dive into the stories of people transforming our world one bold move at a time.